It's time now for the business news, and I'm joined by Catherine Bennett in the studio. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning.
And you're starting out over in Beijing, where negotiators from both the United States and China are gathering to find a solution.
That's right, and it's the first official meeting since the two countries decided on a 90-day truce on further tariffs. Now, just a reminder that the two have imposed tariffs on more than $300 billion of each other's goods. We're going to go live now to our correspondent Charles Pellegrin in Beijing, who can tell us a little bit more about what's on the negotiating table. Hi, Charles. Now, US President Donald Trump has said that China's ailing economy gives it a better incentive to negotiate. Can you tell us a little bit about what China is hoping to get out of these trade talks?
Well, China is hoping to make progress towards the goal of lifting those trade barriers that have been set up by the U.S. in the past year, and this by a March 2nd deadline. Or at least they want to keep the dialogue going past that deadline, to keep the conversation, the dialogue channels open. This is an important goal for China, as they're going through, as you said, an economic slowdown with the trade barriers deeply affecting their output. Indeed, lifting those trade barriers would be a boost for exports and for manufacturing. And actually, the GDP for 2018 is slated to be actually slower than the previous year, and the manufacturing data for December shows that manufacturing has actually contracted for the first time in 2 years. So China will be eager to resolve this trade dispute, but they won't be willing to compromise on some core principles.
And so what do you think is the likelihood of the two countries reaching a resolution?
Well, China isn't the only one that has an incentive to reach a resolution here. The United States economy might be doing better, but there are signs that they are struggling as well. Some large American groups like Apple or FedEx, have actually lowered their revenue estimates because of the slowdown in China, because the Chinese market is just so important to any multinational company these days. So this means that the U.S. has an incentive to come to the negotiating table. As well, the stock market in the U.S. has been very volatile because of this trade dispute, and the stock market is actually one of the few meters that Donald Trump uses to measure his own success or failures. So so both sides will be eager to resolve this trade dispute.
Okay, and tell us, what are the sticking points in the negotiations?
Well, first of all, it seems like a very tight deadline for some very thorny issues that have been issues for a really long time. If you think about something like legislation on market access for foreigners in China, it would be very surprising to see that that sort of deep structural reform take place in such a short amount of time. And on other issues as well, things like industrial subsidies for key sectors of the Chinese economy, something that is central to how China manages its economy, state intervention, and something that the U.S. wants to change. It's hard to see any changes above things that are superficial or cosmetic happening, because this is so central to how China manages its own economy. And actually, if I'm going to leave you on this quote from an editorial here in the Global Times, which is a state-run paper, showing that there is a limit to China's willingness to compromise, saying that if Beijing would have wanted to raise the white flag, they would have done so already.
Great. Thank you very much, Charles Pellegrin, for that analysis. And as the US government shutdown heads into its third week, banks are offering to go easy on borrowers. JP Morgan Chase is waiving checking account fees and overdraft charges for workers whose pay has been frozen. A Goldman Sachs unit has said that customers might be able to defer loan payments, while a number of other American banks have offered short-term forbearance on repayment plans and potential modifications to interest rates. Now let's take a look at the markets. So stocks in Asia are getting a healthy boost from the prospect of trade talks, with Japan's Nikkei jumping 2.5%. Chinese markets are also up. The Shanghai Composite rose almost 0.75%, followed closely by the Hang Seng Index. The Kospi gained over 1%, pushed by Samsung shares. Apple has announced a partnership with its rival Samsung. Owners of certain Samsung smart TVs will be able to get iTunes film and TV content, as well as cast iPhone and iPad screens onto the TV. The agreement indicates that Apple has realised that no tech company is an island, and is working closer with competitors to grab more customers. And Ryanair is on a winning streak, if you can call it that. It's won the title UK's worst short-haul airline for the 6th year running. 70% of people questioned in the survey from which said that they would never fly it again in the future. It comes after a bad 2018 for the airline, with repeated strikes, cancelled flights and constantly changing baggage rules. And that's all from me.
Ryanair, you gotta love it. I mean,
Or not.
You can't beat the prices. I mean, they are... Yeah, it comes with a lot of hang-ups. Firstly, if you live in Paris, the airport is way out of the city. Thank you very much for that, Catherine Bennett, there with a look at the day's business news. Now,